Welcome to the offseason, Miami Dolphins fans. It's Ben Morgan of the Fins Up Network. We're locked into the number 13 overall selection in the first round of the 2025 NFL draft. So I figure it's time for an early look ahead at some prospects that at least I believe would be worth considering with that selection. Now, I know it's a new year. It's a little bit of a new strategy for me with my videos. I know it's been a while since you guys have heard from me. So yeah, still going to be doing some videos, just going to be a couple of different things going on topic wise. But today I'm going to give 5 players that have at least piqued my curiosity already during the draft prep that I have been able to do. Now, there's definitely going to be more than 5 guys that the Dolphins will be considering with this pick at number 13. So that's a great opportunity for you to jump into the conversation. So in the comments, if you agree with any of the guys that I'm going to label, go ahead, drop them in the comments. If you've got other nominations, the same thing, go ahead and put them in the comments. But let's get things started with a safety, yes, defensive secondary. Was a little bit of an issue this year. So let's start right there with Malachi Starks, the safety out of Georgia. He goes 6'1", 205. Now, he is super athletic, super instinctive, All-American, All-SEC at the safety position. He's got solid ball skills in the passing game. He's got a good burst, help him recover, help him close those gaps, drive on the ball effectively. Good hands as well, 6 career interceptions while he was at Georgia. He had 4 tackles for a loss last year alone. So he's got that ability to make plays both at and behind the line of scrimmage. He's leaving Georgia after his junior season. In my opinion, he is hands down the top safety prospect in the 2025 NFL draft. Now, if there's a negative about Malachi Starks, he can struggle a little bit when he gets manned up with faster wide receivers. That is more so a technique thing. I don't think it's a speed thing for Starks. I think it's more of a technique thing with him just getting those hips flipped a little bit quicker. So that's obviously something that he can work on. But overall, if you're looking for a guy that could jump into this secondary and be a day one impact starter, I think Starks could be your guy, which could also be very important because, as you know, what do we got right now? Javon Holland probably going to price his way out of the Miami Dolphins. And guess what? We didn't get much production from anyone else at that position either. Jordan Poyer, Elijah Campbell. Neither of them were super productive this year. And guess what? Both those guys are due to hit free agency as well this offseason. So keep your eye on my number 1 guy right there, Malachi Starks. All right, let's go to my next guy, Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State. If you've been watching some college football playoffs, if you weren't aware of this guy, you probably are now. He is an absolute beast at the tight end position. 6'6", 260. Talk about one of the more fun tight ends to watch tape on. This dude simply does it all. Former high school quarterback, so he's taken snaps there. He's even thrown a handful of passes this year at Penn State. Before the last game that they played, I didn't add those stats in there. Prior to that, he had carried the ball 24 times for 197 yards and 4 touchdowns this year at Penn State. Keep in mind, he is a tight end. Yeah, and then he absolutely blew up as a pass catcher this year. Prior to that game as well, 98 catches, over 1,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Now, if you want the absolute highlight, the fun game to watch for Warren this year versus USC, tight end position, keep in mind, 17 catches, 224 yards, and a receiving touchdown. He ran the ball for a sneak to get a first down, and he completed a 9-yard pass. I'm going to say it again. He's a tight end. We should draft this guy for the sheer idea of what the Packers, I'm watching this, the Commanders-Buccaneers playoff game is on right now. The Packers-Eagles game just got done before this. The Packers lined up Tucker Kraft, got the first down once or twice in that game. Yeah, we have short yardage issues. Boom, enter a tight end like this. Problem solved. The dude is athletic. He's got good hands. He can create after the catch in just an outright bruising manner. There's some good film on him out there as well, moving people as a blocker. There is a lot to like about Tyler Warren, and I don't think the team that selects him will regret selecting him in the first rounder because, yes, he is definitely a first-round prospect. That being the question, will the Dolphins use the number 13 pick on a tight end after Jonnu Smith just had a career year for the Miami Dolphins? Keep in mind, he is under contract through the 2025 season as well. Plus, there's some glaring needs. We already talked about one in the secondary. We got glaring holes on the offensive line as well. So what are the odds of us using the 13th selection on tight end? Now, we did just see Brock Bowers step in, become one of the league's best tight ends already in year one. So, yeah, there's a case for doing what the Raiders did. Take best player available, hoping that Tyler Warren can kind of find that instant success the way Brock Bowers did. But I will say that I do think Brock Bowers, if you're comparing the two, is a superior prospect. So we should probably temper our expectations a little bit. Regardless, a great tight end, a fun prospect to watch. Let's get back into the trenches. Will Campbell, offensive lineman out of LSU. It's a big guy, 6'6", 323, a 3-year starter at LSU. Does not have the world's longest arms to match that frame, so a lot of people project him to move inside to guard at the next level. Guess what? We don't care. Probably preferred at this point in time. We have our bookends at tackle, at least projected bookends. We need help on the interior. He was actually given LSU's number 7 patch. Now, what that is basically their top playmaker is given the number 7, since an offensive lineman can't be 7. He was given the patch. He was actually the team's first offensive lineman to ever receive this recognition. It started back in 2008, if you're trying to keep tabs on that. You look at him, though, technically sound, good feet, hand placement, play strength. It's all there. He's got experience in both gap and zone blocking running schemes. Easy for me to say. Some of his shortcomings, I'll say, do come a little bit in pass protection, which those shortcomings may actually be rectified simply by just moving him inside the guard. So if you're looking for, in my opinion, the ideal offensive lineman at number 13, Will Campbell is going to be about as good as it gets. Problem is whether or not he lasts until number 13, but there's a lot of time left to sort through all of that. But as of today, he is 100% on my radar. All right, let's go through another 3-year starter at left tackle. Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive lineman out of Texas. He goes 6'4", 324. Once again, a prospect that a lot of teams are probably going to look into sliding at guard at the next level. Once again, just like Campbell, no issues whatsoever. That's actually preferred by me. I will say that I have seen some chatter recently of him being maybe, you got your risers and fallers in draft season, maybe being a little bit of a faller recently. A lot of that is because of people are thinking once he gets beat, he's not recovering all that well. However, just kind of like what we said about Campbell, moving him inside can sort of help rectify some of those things. There's less space for pass rushers to operate in, less room for them to work with. So there's still a lot to like about Kelvin Banks. Don't get me wrong. The run blocking, the athletic ability to get to that second level. So like I said, maybe some room to grow as a pass protector, but when isn't there when we're talking about college prospects? I also think the big thing when people are saying he's a little bit of a faller, people need to keep in mind with Banks, he has not been healthy here towards the end of the season. He outright missed the SEC championship game. He was nowhere near 100% against ASU. We just saw him against Ohio State, which in my opinion, the reps that I watched him in, not even being 100% healthy, he looked the part, especially if you could slide him into guard. So keep all of that in mind when you're looking at any potential criticism on Banks. I do have him a little bit lower right now compared to Campbell, but I would also say that as of today, there's probably a better chance of Banks being available compared to Campbell. But once again, a lot to sort out here before the draft in April. All right, let's keep it in the trenches for my final one here in this video. Kenneth Grant. Let's go on the other side of the ball. Defensive lineman out of Michigan, 6'3", 339 pounds. Remember back to 2019, I want to say it was. Christian Wilkins was not the sexy pick at number 13, but was he the necessary pick at number 13? Did he pan out? Did he exceed expectations? I would say yes to all of those, and that's kind of how I feel about potentially adding to the interior of this defensive line already maybe in this year's draft as well. Last offseason, we essentially added an entire fleet of interior defensive linemen to pair with Zach Sealer once we ended up losing Christian Wilkins. And we actually did okay doing that, right? The addition of Calais Campbell proved to be a huge success. I think a lot of us would like the idea of welcoming him back for what is like 19th season in the league. That was a success. But I would say we're basically in the same position this offseason as we were last offseason at that position. So the only way we're going to get any younger at the position most likely is finding that guy that can be here for a little while. And that's obviously going to come through the draft. Now, as of today, number 13 it's likely going to seem maybe a little too early for a guy like Kenneth Grant, but there's a lot to like about this guy once you start watching him as well. He is a sizable prospect. He's athletic. There is a play from last year. He makes a tackle on, it was Penn State's Terron Armstead. He's like 15, 20 yards down the field against a really good running back making that tackle. Search that one. It'll come up. And while I'll say he doesn't dominate with like a certain go-to pass rush move, he at least has the knowledge, the football IQ, the wherewithal to get his hands up into those passing lanes. If he knows he's not going to get home, he bats down a lot of passes that way. Just like who? Yeah, Christian Wilkins did that as well until he developed into a little bit more of a pass rusher. So this particular pick may be based a little bit more on need versus maybe like a best player available situation. But in my opinion, Grant is definitely a guy to keep an eye on if you want to see this team get better on the trenches, on the defensive side of the ball. So like I said, though, there are definitely more than the 5 guys that I highlighted today. So that's where you come in as well. If you've got anyone that you would like thrown into this mix, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We will wrap it for there today, Miami Dolphins fans. But until next time, fins up.